Okay, have you ever watched a brilliantly smart friend, a super successful colleague, or hey, maybe even yourself, make a choice that was just absolutely baffling? We kind of tend to think that intelligence is this bulletproof shield against making bad choices. We assume that if you're just smart enough, you're not going to make silly mistakes. But honestly, that's a complete myth. Most bad decisions aren't caused by a lack of intelligence at all. They're actually caused by highly predictable thinking errors.
Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever paused and wondered who is really in the driver's seat of your mind? Because today, our mission is to pull back the curtain and uncover the invisible cognitive biases that are quietly driving our daily actions, often without us having a clue. We're going to break down the most common mental traps that hijack how you think, how you decide, and how you act. And we'll look at why these little glitches happen to absolutely everyone.
All right, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First up, your brain's hidden shortcuts. Second, the 5 thinking errors. Third, biases in everyday life. And finally, we'll wrap up with the simple thinking framework.
So, kicking things off with section 1, your brain's hidden shortcuts. The root of this whole problem starts with how your brain naturally operates. Your brain is this incredibly efficient machine, right? And to save time and energy, it relies really heavily on mental shortcuts. These shortcuts feel completely normal to us as we just go about our day. But the catch is, they lead to systematic mistakes. And those mistakes, they eventually lead to pretty poor decisions. Now, when we face a really tough choice, we almost always assume that just pouring more data into the mix is the magical cure for our confusion. I just need more information. But the harsh reality here, your foundational thinking process itself is flawed. Pouring more information into a broken machine doesn't somehow pop out a better decision. It just gives you a flawed result, but with a lot more data backing it up. Moving right along to section 2, the 5 thinking errors. Let's get really specific here. What exactly are these predictable mistakes? Well, meet the 5 invisible villains secretly sabotaging your logic. 1. Confirmation bias. 2. Availability bias. 3. Social proof. 4. The sunk cost fallacy. And number 5, the overconfidence effect. We're going to break these down one by one, and I guarantee you are going to recognize these in your own life.
First up is confirmation bias. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's when you actively look for information that proves you're right, and you just completely ignore anything that contradicts you. Our brains have this incredibly powerful tendency to block out opposing views. Why? Because of cognitive dissonance. That's the super uncomfortable feeling of holding 2 totally conflicting ideas in your head at once, and it is literally exhausting for your brain to process. Acknowledging that we might be wrong simply takes way too much mental juice.
Just think about how this plays out in the real world. When you firmly believe something, you basically treat your whole day like a scavenger hunt. You only pick up the scattered clues that support what you already think. Think about your last really heated argument. Were you actually listening? Like really open to the other person's facts? Or were you just hunting for bits of information that validated what you'd already decided was the absolute truth?
Okay, let's look at the second error, availability bias. This one shows exactly how those brain shortcuts can backfire. It means you judge things based entirely on what's easiest to remember. So instead of doing the actual hard work of looking up the statistics and calculating facts, your brain just grabs the most accessible memory on the top of the pile and uses that to make a snap judgment. You're basically conflating how easy something is to recall with how likely it is to actually happen.
A perfect example of this is the sensational news we see on TV. Images of, say, dramatic plane crashes are incredibly shocking, which makes them super easy to recall. So your brain tricks you into thinking they happen all the time. We become absolutely terrified of flying, but then we'll casually text while driving 70 miles an hour down the highway on the way to the airport, just completely ignoring the actual statistical danger. Those highly memorable events are totally skewing your perception of real-world risk. Error number 3 is social proof. And this one taps straight into our deep-rooted herd mentality. Social proof is basically when you just assume something is correct simply because a bunch of other people believe it. It's a massive shortcut that saves your brain from the immense effort of independently figuring out a complex situation.
It's that classic, well, if everyone else is doing it, it must be right trap. Now, to be fair, for our ancient ancestors, staying with the herd meant literal survival. You didn't want to be the one guy wandering off alone. But today, whether everyone is suddenly buying some overhyped tech gadget or loudly adopting a specific opinion online, leaning blindly on the crowd can easily lead us right off a cliff. We end up abandoning our own independent judgment just so we can comfortably fit in. Next is a big one, the sunk cost fallacy. This is a remarkably dangerous trap where you just keep doing something for no other reason than you've already invested heavily in it. You let your past investments, which by the way, are already gone and you can never ever get back, completely dictate your future choices.
Come on, we've all been there, right? Stubbornly clinging to a failing project at work, nursing a terrible stock investment, or maybe staying in a totally unfulfilling job just because quitting feels like admitting you wasted the last 3 years of your life. But here's the thing. By refusing to walk away, you aren't recovering what's lost. You are literally just throwing your future time and energy into the exact same black hole.
Finally, error number 5, the overconfidence effect. This tackles the dangerous illusion of certainty. It's when you consistently, and often vastly, overestimate your own knowledge and your own ability to predict how things are going to turn out.
This usually shows up as feeling 100% certain about decisions that honestly aren't actually well thought out at all. This kind of misplaced confidence is usually masking a total lack of real preparation or logical analysis. You trust your gut, it feels right, and therefore you just confidently assume you are right, all without ever doing the hard work to actually prove it to yourself.
Section 3. Biases in everyday life.
So we've covered the theory, but let's connect the dots and see exactly how these predictable errors are silently pulling the strings in our daily routines. Just think about your spending habits. You buy something just because it feels right or because it's the hottest trend online right now. Boom, that's social proof and emotion taking the wheel. How about when you're chatting with a friend and you find yourself relentlessly defending your position even when you kind of suspect you might be wrong? Hello, confirmation bias. What about when you stick with a broken, messy strategy at work just because you spent 3 months building it? Sunk cost fallacy has you completely trapped. And when you just blindly trust your daily judgment without a second thought? Yep, the overconfidence effect is running the show. These are definitely not just abstract academic concepts. They are predictably running our personal and professional lives every single day.
Which brings us to Section 4, the simple thinking framework.
Okay, we've diagnosed the problem, so it's time for the solution. We need a reliable way to bypass these flawed mental shortcuts. So here is your simple 4-question daily toolkit to fight back. Try using this framework whenever you are facing a tough choice. Question 1, what bias might be affecting me right now? Question 2, am I actively ignoring opposing information? Question 3, am I reacting emotionally instead of logically? And question 4, would I make this decision again today? Hitting pause to actually ask yourself these questions instantly disrupts those automatic, lazy shortcuts and empowers you to consistently make much smarter choices.
I really want to end this explainer by zeroing in on the single most powerful question from that toolkit. Would I make this decision again today? Try looking at everything in your life right now through this specific lens. The projects you're working on, the habits you keep, the financial investments you've made. If you were starting entirely fresh today, knowing exactly what you know right now, would you genuinely choose this exact same path again? Because if the answer is no, well, it might be time to step back, acknowledge that sunk cost, and stop letting these predictable thinking errors make your life choices for you. So what choice do you need to completely rethink today? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep questioning those shortcuts.